had a number of people ask me about my bucket that I use for fishing that's visible in some of the videos I've made. And so I thought I'd do a quick video just to show you how I made it. I started with a bucket that I actually got pool tablets in, chlorine tablets for our pool. And the bucket looks somewhat like a 5-gallon bucket, but as you notice it is shorter and wider than a 5-gallon bucket, and that's important because it gives it some stability. I take this bucket pretty much every time I go fishing, especially if I'm fishing from the shore. I usually carry my gear in it, and then when I come back I either carry the fish if I have a number of small fish that can fit. Otherwise, I just put my gear in it to carry out as well. Now for rod holders, I just use standard PVC pipes that are big enough to accommodate the rods that I use. I put a little notch toward the top that I cut with a hacksaw, and that makes so it takes the rods, and the cutout is used for the reel. To attach the rod holders, I drilled 2 holes through the side of the bucket and into the side of the pipe, and I used a round head bolt with a screwdriver slot in it, so that way I could just put a wrench down in the pipe to hold the nut, and then I could just turn this side. If you also notice, I put 2-part epoxy around and underneath the heads of the bolt before I drew them tight, and that way it keeps the bucket waterproof, so I can put water and some fish in there if I want to. I also put, just for added strength, I drilled 2 holes side by side the width of the pipe, and I put a wire tie through there that I drew very tight, and then I also put epoxy there as well to keep it waterproof. Down inside the pipe you can see that I put a lock nut on each of the bolts. Now I had a problem that the bolts were a little too long and protruded too far into the pipe, and that made it hard to get the rods in there. So I actually used a hacksaw to saw those off flush with the nuts. And if you wonder how I did that with a hacksaw, I actually had to take the blade off, put the blade through the pipe, and then attach the blade to the saw again and saw it off. And obviously then take the blade off in order to get the saw loose. If you notice, my rod doesn't have any sort of latch or anything on it to keep it in that rod holder, and that really doesn't become an issue in most cases because the rod holder is almost straight up, and so since the fish is pulling down, you don't really have it falling out much. The exception to that is if the fish actually pulls the bucket over, and that is a concern, especially if you don't have much weight in it. So I always try to keep a good bit of gear in there, or maybe even a rock, or just put water in there if I'm going to store some fish that I catch in it. And the other thing I do is I keep the drag loose. That way the fish can pull a little bit. If it takes me a couple seconds to get over there and pick up the rod, that it won't pull it over and pull the rod out. Do us a favor and rate this video by pressing the like or dislike button below. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.